does he have to do with this?
Let anything, you know what I'm talking about. Let anything. Nah, I don't have to say it right now. Don't worry about it. I don't got to say it up here. Let anything happen. And I'm going to show you and him. Bet.
In shape, 145.
Yeah.
In shape. You know what I mean? So this is different from a Crawford coming up to 168, but we know his walk around weight is probably 170, 180.
The fight that I couldn't believe, that was too insane and honestly just baffling to think would be a real fight in 2025, reminds you that combat sports are the craziest sports on the planet.
Chaos erupted at the press conference for the Gervonta Davis vs. Jake Paul showdown, transforming what was meant to be a standard promotional event into an explosive confrontation. Tensions flared when Davis lost his composure after being pressed about his decision to face Paul rather than a top-ranked contender. The question struck a nerve, and his sharp responses quickly shifted the room's energy. Sensing the moment, Jake Paul seized the opportunity to provoke him further, taunting Davis over personal controversies and making jabs at his past. The exchange spiraled fast, with both men shouting over each other as security and moderators rushed to restore order.
And truly, when people run back to this press conference, all the shit talk, all the fun, they're going to be like, wow, this kid really is doing something monumental in the sport, and he's actually an insane boxer. And I'm going to show that this guy who's been doing it his whole life has been doing it wrong his whole life.
What'd you say, Tank?
He said he gonna outbox me. Whoop-de-doo.
The one thing, when you have a fight of this magnitude, especially with Jake, because his appeal has been global. For you, Tank, do you think this is one of those fights where now all of a sudden you can show your boxing skills on a global scale to maybe people who weren't interested in boxing? All of a sudden they say, well, who is this guy?
Yeah, it's actually like, now that I'm looking at it now, it's just like, I don't know, probably.
From the very start, the exchange was anything but friendly. Jake Paul, standing at 6 feet 1 inch, towered over Gervonta Davis's 5 feet 5 inches frame, a striking visual that perfectly captured the size disparity dominating pre-fight conversations. Paul capitalized on the contrast, boasting that his superior height and reach would allow him to control the distance and neutralize Davis's attacks. Davis, unfazed and visibly composed, countered with his trademark confidence, promising to erase the size difference once the punches started flying. Speed kills, he reminded reporters, making it clear that he intended to turn Paul's physical advantages into liabilities. The massive size gap quickly became one of the event's main flashpoints. Many fans and analysts, including prominent media figures, questioned the fairness and authenticity of the matchup. Critics labeled it everything from a publicity stunt to a clown show, pointing out that Davis, a decorated, undefeated lightweight world champion, was stepping in against a social media star-turned boxer who naturally competes at much heavier weights. It's no secret that Jake Paul thrives on spectacle and provocation, and this press conference was engineered to deliver exactly that. From the clown costume stunt to the shoves and pointed references to Davis's legal troubles, every moment seemed designed to go viral. What should have been a measured pre-fight event quickly devolved into a circus of insults, interruptions, and posturing, resembling a reality show more than a professional boxing presser.
Right, but yeah, that was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped, to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. I mean, what is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire as he would experience extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over it. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 pounds when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best. So, you know, there's a height disparity there of some 8 inches. And once again, this is Jake Paul showing total disrespect to boxing, in my opinion. Once again, continued to impact sport for his own financial ends. And worse still, the powers that be in boxing allowing him to get away with it and facilitating this utter bullshit. And meanwhile, what's even worse about this is that meanwhile, the WBA lightweight title that Tank Davis should be defending against Lamont Roach in a rematch, they fought back.
Keith Thurman highlighted a striking irony that few can deny. Gervonta Davis's harshest critics are, in many ways, his biggest promoters. As Thurman pointed out, the same voices that constantly tear down Davis's performances are also the ones glued to the screen every time he fights. They question his opposition, dismiss his accomplishments, and critique his style, yet they never seem to miss about. Thurman's point is simple but sharp. By giving Davis their time, attention, and outrage, they're amplifying his presence in the sport. Every complaint, every heated debate, and every online post keeps his name alive in the headlines. In effect, his detractors have become unwilling contributors to his fame. Headlines. In effect, his detractors have become unwilling contributors to his fame.
We've seen that Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, trying to push toward his goal of ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be, because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight, like, okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real fight. He'll go and he'll win the fight. Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever, but Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily, and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, oh, that's fucking crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk, but a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years. So it's a weird spot to be in for him, for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Makisa Badarian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying how it was a real
Stephen A. Smith has been outspoken in his criticism of the recent wave of mismatched exhibition bouts, including Jake Paul's high-profile fights against former legends like Mike Tyson. Smith described Paul's foray into these spectacles as both saddening and disgusting, bluntly calling out the lack of genuine competition. He argued that if Paul truly wants to establish himself as a serious boxer, he needs to face contemporary, elite-level opponents, not retired athletes or stars past their prime at the same time. Smith acknowledged Paul's undeniable promotional talent, recognizing that his ability to generate attention has brought boxing into mainstream headlines. Yet he was emphatic that attention alone doesn't equal credibility. True respect in the sport requires facing legitimate, top-tier talent inside the ring.
With Tank first off, don't watch Tank. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? You support it, then what you doing? You can't not support and support at the same time, right? So if you're a boxing purist, then this fight with Roach is really more for you. It's going to be more up your alley, you know? If you just like all entertainment, all fights, all hypes, all everything, then you're going to want to tune in to the Tank and Paul's show there, because that's all for entertainment. Was it for entertainment purposes only, right? It's to say, like, somewhere in the small print of the promotion, for entertainment. Don't do this at home, kids. Fine. Disclaimer. Yeah, disclaimer. For entertainment purposes only. So it's money making purposes only.
Raleigh Romero views the Jake Paul vs. Gervonta Davis exhibition on Netflix as a major audience magnet, particularly for younger viewers in the United States. He notes that while Canelo Alvarez vs. Terence Crawford is poised to deeply resonate with Mexican and Latin American fans, the Paul Davis matchup is likely to attract a larger stateside audience, especially those under 20. Romero emphasizes that both fights serve to expand boxing's overall footprint, which he considers a win for the sport regardless of the matchup. From a purely competitive perspective, he regards Canelo vs. Crawford as the superior fight. Yet in terms of reach, hype, and engagement within the US, Paul vs. Davis is positioned to dominate the conversation and pull in more eyeballs, highlighting the growing influence of crossover stars in modern boxing.
Who will win this fight? Jake Paul or Tank Davis? It's a legit question. And I actually want to really hear your thoughts on who do you think is going to win. Because I know what Vegas is saying, but I want to know what you think.
Personally, I think Tank too little, bro.
Yo,
I think Tank too little.
I'm so glad you have a brain on your fucking shoulder.
I think Tank too little.
I said, bro.
I think Tank too little. That's what I'm saying.
And
weight classes for a reason.
Davis,
that weight class for a reason.
5'5", 135 pounds. Jake Paul is 6 feet, 205 pounds.
That's what I'm saying. He's
6'1", 205. Everybody's like, yeah, bro, but Tank it only takes one good punch. Yes, it takes one good punch when you're about the same size. There's a 60, 70-pound difference in weight in these people. I don't think nobody puts the physics in mind. Jake Paul gets punched in the face by dudes 200 pounds with all their might on a weekly basis. A 135-pound puncher, bro. If y'all remember the Mayweather versus Conor McGregor fight, Conor walks around like 180 on the regular. He's like 5'9", 180. Mayweather's like 5'7", 145. That 30-pound difference, bro. If you remember that fight, Mayweather was putting mittens on Conor. Guess what happened to Conor? He didn't hit the ground once. He lasted all 12 rounds getting hit with flurries. I'm talking about Mayweather was having his time. He's being cocky with it, hitting him with all kind of combos. And we're watching the last 3 rounds of that shit like, yo, knock him out. And you know what? He could not knock him out. Because Conor gets punched by people that are 170, 180 pounds on a regular. And just that 20, 30-pound difference, it was like impossible for him to do anything. And that's exactly what I feel like